That is our bountiful liberty. And see, on the next point of that, I'd like to say our smile. John writes in the first part of this chapter, in verse 4, he says that they write it, that your joy may be full. His sole purpose in writing this was so that you can be happy, that you can have joy. For you to be born again, bought with a price, and bound for heaven, you have something to smile about. And we can rest in the bountiful liberty to be in peace. And we can be nice to people around us because we're saved and we're going to heaven. We've seen God's beautiful love and what it does for us, and that we can be the recipient and have a bountiful liberty basking in his wonderful love and his goodness. Thirdly, a blameless lifestyle. Verse 2 once again says, Beloved, now we are the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him. That's sanctification. For we shall see him as he is, and every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. John wants us to see that we need to strive towards a blameless lifestyle. Firstly, the scene. All saved believers will stand before God for the deeds that we've done. Our faithfulness that we've done, all the things that we've been faithful to towards God, and the lack thereof. Romans 14:10 says, For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. For it is written, As I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. So then every one of us shall give account of himself to God. We will give an account of our lives, whether you like it or not. All the things that you do, all the things that you're just living for yourself right now, you're going to give an account towards that. And I forget that so many times. And you know what? I remember it after I sin. I remember it after I do wrong. Because we're stupid. We're stupid Christians. We're really awful. But you know what we need to realize right now? Is that we need to live for God. We need to live a blameless lifestyle. Because there is coming a day when we will be judged for what we've done. And I hope you can stand before God in a more confident manner than for you to be in the back. Like, you know how you're in a line? Well, you're going to be walking to the back of the line, waiting so that you can be the last person to go, because you're going to be that ashamed. And I'm going to be that ashamed. We need to live a more holy life. All saved believers will stand before God for the deeds we've done. We give an account of our lives, and we just need to live for his pleasure. We need to live for him. And that day is coming. Secondly, I'd like to say our sanctification. Every man that has the hope of salvation, well, the verse says he purifies himself. And even as Christ is pure. Christ is pure. And how do we purify ourselves? Well, we should live like Christ. That's pretty simple. Does that make sense? Yeah, we should live like Christ. And you know how we can find out how to live like Christ? Well, his story's in here. If you get a hold of this word, if you get into this book, you'll start living like Christ. And I'm sure other people will notice it. We are God's, and whatever we do, we should do it for Christ. And we live to present ourselves living sacrifices, holy, acceptable unto God. Because, well, it's reasonable. It's a reasonable service for everything he's done for us, everything that I've already explained, his sacrifice, his love for us. It's only our reasonable service that we could live for him. Lastly, I'd like to say on this point, his sufficiency. Well, I'm sorry, but we still have the flesh inside of us. And that's why we have to be sanctified and purified. Through our fight to live holy for God, there's going to be times when you fall. And how do I know this? Well, because I've done it over and over and over again. I fall into sin, and then I get caught up with living perfect, and that, well, I always come short of perfection. Always. Always come short of it. And Paul in 2 Corinthians says that Satan's messenger kept bothering him. He says that, and Paul goes on, he doesn't say that God will be with him. He doesn't say, well, I'm just getting torn up by the devil, and you know what, the Lord will be with me. He doesn't say that. You know what he does? If you look at 2 Corinthians, and where he says, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. He doesn't say that himself. He's quoting God there. But that's not from anywhere else in the Bible, which means he had that close of a relationship with God that he had personal words from God to tell us right there in 2 Corinthians. That's how close his relationship was to God. When's the last time that you've heard his voice? When's the last time that you were able to quote God because you were that close to him? You were able to just bask in a relationship with your Father. He says, my grace is sufficient for thee. And you know what? We are going to fall, and we are going to mess up a lot. But the just man falleth 7 times, and we need to get back up because his grace is sufficient. Even though our sanctification and our path to living a blameless lifestyle, God's grace is sufficient for you, and he wants to guide and comfort you. And I haven't gone very long, which is good. But piano player, you can come, and I'll just tell you a little story real quick. I'll take you into a room where you have a student is enrolled into a very detrimental class for his graduation or whatever you want to call it. And we'll say that student is me, but I'm just saying that. Don't forget, this isn't a true story completely. But the teacher gets up, he lectures each day, every day, and the student just sleeps through the class. He doesn't really care, doesn't really want to be there, doesn't want to understand what he's learning, and he just sleeps through the class all the time. And come test day, he has no idea what's on the test, has no complete clue. He's clueless, doesn't have an ounce of knowledge in his head about what's on that test. And you know what he does? You know what I did? I failed terribly. Failed terribly on that test. All throughout the year, I just slept and slept through the class. And it came time for the final exam, final test to, that whole entire year of being in that class and the comprehensive test at the end. And you know what? I failed miserably again. Why? Because I was sleeping the whole entire time. I was living, I was thinking about my flesh and was thinking about what I need to keep for myself, and I wanted to sleep. I just fell to the flesh, so I slept through the whole entire class. And you know what happens? You failed miserably when you came test time. We have Christians who are farther along in their walk with others. We have those who just started their walk. We have those who aren't even on a walk. And Christians are sleeping all around us. And when will we wake up? 1 John 2:28 says, and now, little children, abide in him, that when he shall appear, we may have confidence and not be ashamed before him at his coming. You've heard preaching all last week. And I can't say anything new to you to make it fancy, to make it sound like it's, that's different. I can't say that. All I can tell you tonight is let's draw near to God with a true heart and full assurance, with that bountiful liberty, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. For those who don't know the beautiful love of God, you've missed out. And the bountiful liberty of being saved, having that peace in your heart, it's just amazing to know. And I can't explain it to you anymore. I can't explain it except for just saying it's beautiful. Christian, we need to get closer to him, and we need to stop sleeping through life. And we need to start waking up and start living for God. And be confident that when you stand at the judgment seat of Christ and you can stand in front of him, that you can say that you lived for his pleasure and not for yourself. Living for his pleasure, and I hope that we can start living like that as Christians.